Hello and welcome. Nathan here with Renegade Solutions Company. We have a 2018 Nissan Rogue we'll be working on. This is the instruction video for the heater box repair kit. If you're here, you're probably familiar with the 2014 to 2020 Nissan Rogues, 2017 to 2020 Nissan Rogue Sports that have the problem with the heater box that's costly to repair. I spent more than a year developing a workaround to actually fix it and make it stronger. So we're going to dive right in. All right, let's get started on this Nissan Rogue heater box repair. First off, safety, gloves, safety glasses, follow all the factory service recommendations and procedures, all other safety rules. The manual doesn't say you have to disconnect the negative battery cable, but you can disconnect the battery at the negative battery cable. It's not going to hurt anything, probably a good idea. I can show you the tools that I use. You don't need all of these, but some of these you will need. This little ratchet I use a lot, and there's one tight spot in there, a couple tight spots. You don't need to go out and buy a little ratchet like that. You can just take a 1/4 inch wrench. This is an offset wrench. Tape a bit to it. This is a Phillips bit. Regular 1/4 inch wrench will work. It's just a little bit tricky, not bad. Plastic pry bar so you don't mar anything with the plastic on the inside of the car. I use this flexible screwdriver for another tight spot. Mini flat blade screwdriver. This pick or a pick like it might come in handy. You don't need power tools, but you will need a 10mm socket and then the Phillips for this job. So let's get started. If you come in here, at the hood release cable lever, there is 2 screws behind it. You can see them when you look under there. They're pretty easy to see. You just pop those out, and then the lever pulls forward and comes down. Now, this plastic pry bar, this is where it comes in handy. You get behind this cover needs to come off. You can pop it out, just like that. Set that aside. And then this cover, same thing, pops out. Just pull it straight out. Take your small screwdriver. There's some electrical connectors here. They're not scary. Don't worry, it's easy. They only go in one way, and they only go into one slot. You don't need to disconnect these two. If you do disconnect them, it doesn't matter. If you look at it, there's these little tabs here. You push the little tab and then it should release. Don't put too much tension on these wires. You don't want to be pulling on any wires. If they get kind of stuck, just stick your screwdriver in there and just gently pry them out. They shouldn't take any force. The last connector's here. Same thing, there's a little tab in there. And that comes off. Oops. The next part, well actually this cover comes off next. The center console cover, it just pulls straight out. Just pull on it. Just like that. The next part is the hardest part of the job. There's a vent in here. This vent has to come off. For just the sake of the video, I have the hardest screw out. The next one, I'll just show you what I do. Flexible screwdriver. You may not see, but I'm going to show you one of these boxes that's out of the vehicle and show you exactly what this is, what it looks like, and how to do this so that you're familiar with it. So this screw, it's hard to get to. It takes patience. But once it's out, I'll show you the easiest way I've found to get this vent out of here. So this vent is kind of tight. If you pull it out and squish it against this metal framework here, then it'll compress enough and it usually comes out. Just like that in one piece, no damage. Next, we'll get to the motor. There is an electrical plug on it, but do not unplug it until you get it out, because it's a lot easier. You don't need a power tool. This is just for the sake of the video. Small screwdriver will work. There's 2 screws. And like I say, I'll show you on another heater box so you can see exactly what's going on. Pull the motor out and down, take your little screwdriver, then you just pry against the tab just a little bit, and it pops right out. And here's the motor. This is a heater box out of a Nissan Rogue. It's just like the one we were looking at in that 2018. They're big, they're bulky, they're heavy, they're complicated. They're actually fragile. They get damaged in shipping. They've been on back order and hard to get. The only way to fix the vehicle for this problem through the manufacturer is to replace this whole heater box. They don't make the parts inside. Even if they did, you can't get these heater boxes apart and back together. It just does not happen. It's impossible. It's a very invasive repair. You have to take out the whole dashboard, take out the steering column, the air conditioning gets recovered. So there's a chance for squeaks and rattles, leaks, pinched wires, different problems. I've heard quotes as high as $3,000 in different areas to do this job. And then you're getting factory parts. It could happen again. I've taken a whole bunch of these apart and virtually every one is in some stage of failure. And we'll get into that here. But that's why I made this kit, so that I can fix it permanently and make it stronger and save a bunch of time and money and hassle. So this is the vent that we were looking at in the vehicle. There's 2 screws, and I'm going to show you out here so you can see a little easier. This is the tool I was talking about. It's the wrench with the bit taped to it. You can get in here on the screws like this under the dash and get them out that way. This flexible screwdriver is not necessary, but it is pretty handy. I'm going to use power for the sake of the video. You can use a pick tool. Sometimes this tab here gets stuck a little bit and you can pry it off of there. A lot of times what you can do is just take the front of the vent here, pull it down, and it'll twist off and you can slide it down and out. Here is the blend door motor. The screws are silver most of the time. They're a little bit smaller, so keep track of them. Don't mix them up with the vent screws. And this motor pulls off. It just pulls straight out like that. Once it is down here, you can take off this electrical connector. You can disconnect it by prying against the tab here, like that, and it pulls off. Now here is the shaft that is part of the factory gear that we're going to replace. It is nylon. It's very strong. They actually did a really good job on it. These never wear out. It's the other part that breaks, but we're going to make a permanent fix here. If you look at this door bore here, you can see a crack. There's another one in there. It's a little harder to see. It used to be a nice clean hex shape. Now it's rounded out. It's stripped out. What happens is these crack, 1 crack, 2 cracks. Sometimes they don't crack, but they still expand enough that it strips out. This is what's inside the heater box here. This is one of those doors. So when you look right here at this, it's the same as that door bore we were looking at on the heater box. And when it strips out, this door no longer spins from hot to cold. These doors are made out of polypropylene. It's a very strong plastic under different temperatures. It's also very chemical resistant, hard to bond to. It's very strong in a lot of ways. Tensile strength, torsional strength are very strong with this kind of plastic. I literally took one of these, clamped it in a vise when I was testing adhesives. I glued a piece of plastic to it. I held 120 pounds on it, no problem. But when it comes to abrasion, they are not very strong. I've taken one of these factory gears here, put it in a drill, and I have literally been able to drill right through this plastic, right through the side of one of these doors. The gear still looks great. So that's why I've taken care of the problem of the abrasion. I've tried a lot of other things in the past. Anything that engages this, even all the way to the end of the bore, that is not permanently adhered to this with any kind of movement, it all just strips out. Low torque, whatever it is, they fail. When you order a Rogue heater fix kit, you get a bunch of cool things. I'll show you what I got. There's a bag of goodies. And here we have a syringe to measure the adhesive. There's an applicator needle. The adhesive, there's a few different adhesives that work really well in this bonding system. This is one of them. 2 cotton balls, 3 cotton swabs, 4 toothpicks. There is a packet of plastic safe grease. This won't cause the plastic to swell or get brittle, so make sure you use this. It's very high quality. A pair of tweezers, a small screwdriver, and the activator fluid. This is flammable. It's also a respiratory irritant, so wear gloves, safety glasses, work in a well-ventilated area, and read the safety labeling in the box. This is what helps us glue to that polypropylene and makes it all work. So it's super awesome we have this. I didn't invent this, but I've just adapted it to work here. My favorite part of the kit, right here, The star of the show, this is my patent pending gear and insert setup. I hired a design team to help me design this. I hired a company that specializes in gears to put the gear together. I'm really happy with the fit and finish. It's nice and snug, makes a great connection. With nylon, depending on humidity and temperature, it can be a little tight. This is normal. It's a nylon 6/6 that's very wear resistant and very strong. It's the same plastic they use in plastic bearings and bushings. If you compare it to the factory gear, you can see a big difference. On the heater door itself, the bore has more room for engagement. It's actually deeper than where the factory gear goes. So my insert is able to engage it all the way. It's nice and tight. Even if this is destroyed, even if this bore itself is destroyed all the way to the end and stripped out, this kit will fix it. I have 2 of them out there that were destroyed on the bore all the way, and they're fixed. The collar centers it, keeps it in the right place, also holds the cracks together. The vent holes allow the adhesive to come out and be cleaned up, so it's user-friendly. If your car is brand new, this will fit and prevent it from breaking in the future. On the heater box, it swings like this from hot to cold. I have one of these heater boxes that I've modified to use as a tester to test this repair. It's got a controller on it. It's at over 65,000 cycles right now and running. I just took it apart. There's no looseness, there's no wear, there's no sign of any fatigue. And so this has just gone above and beyond all my expectations. We need to clean out this heater door bore to get started. We're going to use one of the cotton balls. We'll break it into a good 3 or 4 pieces. Take the tweezers. You want to wipe that out. There might be some plastic bits and some grease. This one's already clean because I've been working with it. So you get the idea. You'll just wipe it out of there. Next, you want to take some cleaner. I use brake cleaner. You can use rubbing alcohol. Use one of those too. They dry really fast. They don't leave a residue and they degrease well. But don't use any acetone or anything that can damage plastic. You'll just soak the cotton and scrub it out of there. And just go until it comes out clean, maybe a little bit more. You can use a cotton swab in there if you want to scrub it, if there's anything in there else to get. The insert itself also needs to be clean, so make sure you got a clean piece of cotton with the cleaner on it. And we'll wipe this in to get off just any residue or anything like that. Now we want to just make sure it fits, make sure there's nothing wrong with the box or anything else before we go any further. You'll push it in there, it should touch the box. So this should go all the way to the heater box just like that. If it does, you're in good shape. You need to dry really well. If you have compressed air at the shop, blow it out really well, dry it really well. That's the only thing that's going to stop you from getting a good adhesion, is if that doesn't get dried well enough. If you're at home, use a blow dryer at least a minute and just get that really dry. We'll set this aside. The next step is to apply the activator. Now this makes it possible to bond to that polypropylene. It also works on the nylon. It's not supposed to, but it actually does. I've done a lot of testing. It helps out a little bit. So we're going to use it there. We'll use one of the cotton swabs and stick it in the activator bottle. You want to just get it soaked in there all around, get the liquid out, get it nice and soaked, and then wipe it off. You want to get any excess liquid off of that. I'll show you what it looks like. It's hard to see in there, but if you look at my glove, if you wipe it on there and it dries almost immediately, that's exactly the amount you want to use. If you use a bunch of this stuff in here, it's not going to work as well. It'll be a little bit less strong. So you want to just go in there, you want to coat all the sides of that bore and the back down in the bottom, and this outside lip, just the outside lip that's facing you, just that portion, flat portion that's facing you right there. We're going to get a little bit on this insert on the long side. You can see it just leaves a really thin film and it dries right away. That's what you want to see. You just go evenly across there and on the end. And this needs to cure for at least 5 minutes. And then try and get this glued in place within 15 or 20 minutes. After about 15 or 20 minutes, it starts to slowly lose a little bit of the strength. Not a big deal, but if you can, that's our goal. While that's curing, we're going to swap out our factory gear and put in my patent pending gear into the blend door motor. But if you ordered the kit with the pre-assembled motor, this is what you'll get, and you can skip this step. There's a brand new motor with the gear all greased up, installed, ready to go. It's just even a little more simple if you order this kit. There's another kit that comes with a low torque motor. If you're really paranoid or really want to go extra overkill, you can order that kit, but it's not necessary. This is a very strong repair, but it is available. So you can skip that step if you have ordered the kit with the new motor. If not, here's how we're going to do it. We're going to take the little screwdriver. There's 4 tabs we need to release. We're going to start with one tab, stick the screwdriver underneath the center of the tab, it goes in a little bit, and you twist the screwdriver 90 degrees. And you put in a toothpick just enough to hold up, just far enough to hold that tab up and not let it relax, but you don't want to push the tab up anymore. Move on to the next tab. And do the same thing, just slide that toothpick in just far enough to hold that tab in place and not push it up anymore. On the other side, there's 2 more tabs. And you'll see it start to separate as you go along, that's normal. And then once you have all the toothpicks in place, you can just start to pry this apart and it will just come, the top will just come right off here. Now, this is the factory gear that we are going to replace. This is what it looks like when you take it apart. You can take this gear and make it into a keychain or something cool, or you can just throw it away. I've had these gears fall out before, so I'm going to show you what to do, so don't panic. I've even had these little posts fall out before. They're identical. You can't mix them up. They're the same. The first one goes in this slot right here. The second one, there's 2 slots. Pick the slot that's closest to the first post you just put in. Just like that. The first gear goes in like that. The third gear goes in like that. And the second gear goes in like that. Now with my patent pending gear installed, here's a screenshot opportunity, and this is what it should look like. Before we make it permanent, we're going to grease this up. So what we want to do is take our grease packet and the third cotton swab. We're going to grease that up. We want to get all the teeth. So we want to just keep adding grease until we get all the way around and coat all the teeth. And just a light coating, don't go too crazy. And make sure you go all the way around and get all the teeth. If there's any little bits of cotton on there, just pull them off. We need to grease the hubs also. So we're going to go around here like this. We're just going to go all the way around the outside of this hub. And the disc panel underneath at the base, we'll get some grease on there. Same with the other side. And the disc panel at the bottom of that hub. You can also add a little bit of grease in the cavity here. Sometimes it's dry. And then this collar here, a lot of times it's dry and could use a little grease here. Now, if everything's lined up in that bottom case, it should just snap together easy. If not, just take it apart and find out what's not lined up. Just like that. Before we put the grease away, we need to add grease to the heater box. So we're going to just take some grease here. And we want to go on the outside of this door bore around on the heater box. Now sometimes these heater boxes are white, sometimes these doors are black in color, but they're same shape, same plastic, so everything applies. You want to make sure you got a good coating of grease there. In case any adhesive escapes, it's not going to adhere to the box and cause any problems. The next thing we're going to do is glue the insert in place with the adhesive. We want to make sure our gloves are clean and don't have any grease or anything on them for this step. In fact, having this rag here, soaked in cleaner, nearby, is going to be really helpful. Anyway, so we want to get all cleaned up, or just replace your gloves. The syringe is the first thing we'll need, right here. The applicator needle just threads on the bottom, like that. We're going to take the adhesive, we're going to screw the top on, take the lid off. In fact, we got to pull this plunger out first. You'll see it's graduated, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, all the way up to 1 milliliter. We're going to fill this up past 0.5 milliliters. Just fill it up so we got plenty to work with. And you use the adhesive, make sure you're in a safe place because it can get messy. I have a syringe all set up and ready to go. And I have about 0.7 milliliters in here. What you want to do is if there's any air bubbles, you can try and get them out. If there's a few, not a big deal. I'm going to push the glue out until I get to 0.5 milliliters. So now I have exactly 0.5 milliliter of adhesive in the syringe. We want the rag soaked in cleaner nearby. You're going to take the little screwdriver, clean it off, I have it ready. In the door bore here, we want to put about 0.3 milliliters in the bore. Somewhere right in the middle on the bottom. So now my syringe says 0.2 milliliters. I'll take the little screwdriver and just swirl it around to evenly coat it. If you spill anything, just wipe it up and then re-grease it if it spills out on the heater box here. Okay, it's evenly coated in there. Don't try and wipe this off or save any of this adhesive or save the screwdriver. Just throw it away so we don't make a mess. Next, we have the insert, and we need to put about 0.1 milliliters or less of adhesive on the long shaft here. And I'm just going to use this needle to spread it out. So you want just a light, even coat on here. And then I put a little bit on the end, less than half of a 0.1 milliliter measurement, just to round it out. We can throw this away. And we're going to push it in all the way to the end like that. You might see on the camera there's a little bit of adhesive that has extruded out of those vent holes. That's normal. It's just taking the extra out, and so it doesn't bond to the heater box. The bond inside the door is going to slowly start getting stronger, so we want to wait a minute before we disturb it. The adhesive on the outside here takes 10 minutes or so before it even starts to set up, so we've got time. We want to wait 1 minute just to give the bond inside the door bore there to gain a little bit of strength. So after 1 minute, take a rag and make sure it's really soaked. If it's dry, it will stick. So make sure it's wet with cleaner, and then we're going to wipe it off, but we're going to push on it as we wipe, so we're not pulling out. You don't want to pull on it. So I'm going to wipe it and push like that, and you'll just get it nice and clean. And at this point, you want to just make sure it spins too. It'll spin back and forth like that. Can you hear that noise? That's the door going back from hot to cold. It's not going to go in a full circle. It's just going to go partway and stop. And then that's good to go. It needs to set up for a minimum of 24 hours. 24 to 48 hours is recommended, and then we can start to reassemble it. So after that 24 to 48 hours, we're going to put the blend door motor back on. Just a couple notes here. If you're putting it on and it doesn't line up exactly, just take the door and just twist it a little bit to try and help line it up, and then it should slide in place pretty easy. It doesn't matter where the door is at. When you put it together, it can be hot or cold or somewhere in between. The computer will compensate. It figures out where it's at every day anyway, so don't worry about that, and we'll go see the next steps in the vehicle. All right, so after the glue has cured for 24 to 48 hours, we're going to put it back together. This is the motor that we've assembled. It's going to go back in. It's a little tricky to line it up on where it engages with the box and the tab, the locating tab for here, but it can be done. If you have to force it, it's not working, just stop, pull it off, try again. It takes a few tries to kind of get it finagled in there, but it works. So that's what we're going to do right now. And plug it in first. It's just easier to plug it in before you put it back up in place. And it just takes some patience, and it will go into place just like that. I'm going to use this power tool. You don't need power tools. I'm not going to torque it. This will over torque these screws. I'm just running them in just for the video's sake, and I'll torque them later with a hand tool. Okay. Next is this vent. If you're working on somebody else's car, put it back in. When it goes on, it directs the airflow to your feet when you have it on feet on the heater. Otherwise, it's just going to blow right up at your knees or blow up into this dash and not be very effective. If this was my personal vehicle, this might disappear. This is a pain. This is the hardest part of the job, but it can be done. If you squeeze it like here and put it in, sometimes it works. So that's what I'm going to try. Just like that. You can use this pick to kind of get it up in place. Just be careful with it, but it works. The screws are very difficult, once again, to go back in. I usually start them by hand. There is a way to do it. It's hard to see on the camera, but you can finagle your hand in there just enough to get them started. Flexible screwdriver. And I tighten it a little bit with my mini ratchet or just my wrench with a bit taped on it. Next screw is much more difficult. I make this look easy, but I've had a lot of practice on these. Okay, now that's on. Next, we're going to put the other covers back on. So this piece goes back on. You can just see the clips, and you just line them up and push it in place. Just pushes right on. This piece. Come around here. We got to plug everything back in. Some of them are color coded, just makes it kind of nice. That one's white. This one happens to be white, and the plug is black. I don't know why, but this one is blue and blue, gray and gray. If you unplug these two, just plug them in black on black, and then green on green here. Whoops. And then this one right here, this black one right here, don't forget that. Like I almost did. And then this, you just line up the tabs once again and push it into place. Make sure all the tabs are in place. Then we have these screws. Once again, don't need power tools, but you can. Just be careful. Start the screws on the lever here. I'll come back and torque them later. I'm just going to run them in for the sake of the video with this. Now that's on. The only thing left is this cover, and it just snaps in place. And you're done. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned a lot. Hope you enjoyed it, especially my sparkling personality. I really did try. But the cool thing here really is the kit. I put so much time into it to make it as user-friendly as possible. But if you do have any comments, questions, concerns, I really want to hear them. Contact me on the support email. There's a link to the website in the description below. You can order these, check things out. I'm going to try to have more information on some more videos coming out. I just super appreciate you being here. And thanks again for watching. Have a great day.